Hello, you're on the Reddit Reveals channel. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But hear me out. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I wasn't even trying to win her back. I just wanted to grab my charger, my sweatshirt, and maybe leave behind the apology I never got to say. That's all. But when I saw the new deadbolt on the front door, something inside me snapped. Not like violent snapped. More like pathetic, sleep-deprived, emotionally bankrupt ex-husband who just wanted closure snapped. So I climbed in through the kitchen window. The same one she always told me to fix. It's still stuck at the corner. Still whined like a crying cat when you shoved it up. That window had more personality than I did by the end of our marriage. I didn't expect her to be home. It was 2:13 p.m. on a Tuesday. But there she was, sitting on the floor of our bedroom. Her bedroom now, I guess, surrounded by crumpled tissues and that same blanket she used to say smelled like me. She didn't see me right away. She was just frozen, like someone had pressed pause on her whole body. I should have left. Instead, I whispered her name. Her head whipped around so fast I thought she'd snap her neck. Eldon. She looked terrified, and not the kind of terrified that says, "Oh no, someone broke in," but the kind that says, "I thought I buried you emotionally, and now you're crawling out of the grave." I raised both hands like I was surrendering. I just wanted my charger. That's when her lip started to tremble. Not because of the charger, not because of me being there, but because she saw the duffel bag on my shoulder. I was leaving for real this time. She stood up slowly, like she was made of glass and the wrong move would shatter her completely. "I thought you already left," she said, barely above a whisper. "I tried to," I replied, "but I kept waiting for you to ask me to stay." That silence, it felt like drowning. And then, and I'll never forget this, she walked over to me in absolute silence, dropped to her knees, clutched my leg like a lifeline, and said, "Don't go. Please. I don't know how to fix it, but I never wanted you to leave. I just wanted you to try harder." And I wanted to scream, because all I ever did was try. Try to stay calm when she ignored me. Try to keep dinner warm when she worked late. Try to believe the lies she told me with those tired eyes. Try to love someone who didn't even flinch when I broke down in front of her. But right there, in that room filled with our ghosts, I saw something I hadn't seen in her in months. Regret. Not fake tears. Not guilt. Just raw, unfiltered regret. And it hurt worse than everything else. Because it came too late. She stayed on the floor, holding onto my leg like if she let go, I'd vanish. And maybe I would have. I was already halfway gone when I climbed through that damn window. Part of me wanted to yank my leg free and walk away. Another part, the part that still slept on the left side of the bed, even when she wasn't there, just stood still. I looked down at her. Her mascara was smudged. Hair messy. Nails chipped. The old Marin. The one who used to scold me for microwaving coffee or forgetting laundry in the washer. She would have never let herself look this undone. But this version of her, she looked broken. And somehow, that made me feel worse. "You wanted me to try harder?" I finally said, my voice shaking. "I did, Marin. Every damn day. I tried when you rolled away from me at night. When you said you were just tired for the 5th week in a row. When you stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped asking about my day, stopped even looking at me like I mattered." She stayed silent, head down, but her grip on me tightened. "You changed the locks," I added, voice cracking. "And you want me to believe you still wanted me around?" She finally looked up. "Because I was scared you'd leave." I let out a bitter laugh. "That makes no sense." "Because nothing made sense anymore," she snapped. "I was scared all the time. Scared I didn't love you the same. Scared I did, and that it wasn't enough. Scared you'd realize I wasn't good enough for you, and that you'd be the one to walk out." I froze. Not because she admitted something vulnerable, but because for the first time in this whole mess, I realized she had been lying to herself just as much as she was lying to me. "You stopped being honest with me a long time ago, didn't you?" I asked. She nodded slowly, barely holding it together. "After the miscarriage, I just stopped knowing how to talk to you." And that hit like a brick to the chest. She'd told me she was fine, that it wasn't a big deal, that we weren't even trying. But I cried alone in the car that night. I punched the steering wheel until my knuckles bled. And she just moved on like nothing happened. Or so I thought. "Why didn't you say anything?" I whispered. "Because every time you looked at me, I saw the baby we didn't get to have." We both sat in that silence. The kind of silence that weighs more than any word ever could. My heart was screaming and numb at the same time. And somehow I hated her and loved her in the exact same breath. And that's when she stood up, shakily, arms still trembling, and did something I never expected. She walked into the hallway and unlocked the door to the office, the room she always kept shut. Said it was messy, said it was just storage. I followed her slowly. She didn't say a word, just pointed at the boxes inside. "Go ahead," she muttered. I stepped in. Photos, notes, journals, all about me, memories of us, torn pages, scribbled half letters never sent. And in the middle of the floor, a small black box, with my name on it. "Maren, what is this?" She looked away. "It's everything I couldn't say, everything I wrote to you but was too scared to show." My hands shook as I reached for it. Inside were letters, some angry, some heartbreaking. One just said, "You're slipping through my fingers, and I'm the one pulling you." I looked at her, heart pounding. "Why show me now?" Her voice cracked. "Because you're really leaving this time. And I didn't want you to think I never felt anything." And just like that, all the bitterness, all the confusion, it tangled into something worse. Doubt. Because what if all this time, we weren't enemies? What if we were just two people bleeding in silence, waiting for the other to notice? I sat on the edge of the bed, the little black box in my lap like it was ticking. Every letter inside felt like a knife wrapped in silk, soft on the outside but cutting deeper with every word. Some were dated from months ago, maybe longer. Each page was written in her handwriting. I recognized the loops in her lowercase g's, the way she dotted her I's just slightly to the left. One started with, "You make me feel invisible and seen at the same time, and I hate you for it." Another said, "Sometimes I wish I never met you, just so I wouldn't know what I'm missing now." And then there was the one that broke me. "If Eldon ever finds this, I'll deny everything." I froze. My fingers trembled as I unfolded that sheet. It was different. Thinner paper. No date. And the tone, it wasn't confused or sad. It was sharp, calculated, honest in a way the others weren't. "I'm not in love with him anymore. I think I love someone else. I don't want to, but I do. And I think if he knew, it would destroy him. So I keep playing house. I keep making dinner. I keep pretending to laugh at his dumb stories. I don't even know if I'm a good person anymore. But I know I can't tell him. Not yet." The room went silent. No cars outside. No hum from the fridge. Not even her breath behind me. I didn't want to turn around. Because if I did, I'd have to face the person who wrote that about me. I had imagined infidelity. Suspected maybe there had been someone else. But I never knew. Not until now. And what wrecked me wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way she kept it hidden behind fake apologies and misty eyes. She'd dropped to her knees and cried like I was the one slipping away. But the truth was, she'd let go of me long before I ever touched the doorknob. When I finally looked up, she was standing in the doorway, pale, like she knew exactly which letter I had read. "You weren't supposed to see that one," she whispered. I stood slowly, the letter still in my hand. "You wrote it, Maren. Did you mean it?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just this awful silence that filled the entire room like smoke. "Was there someone else?" I asked. My voice cracked like a cheap radio. Still no answer. That was it. That was my answer. I dropped the letter at her feet. I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. Didn't ask who he was. I didn't want to know. The second I found that letter, the details stopped matching. It was already done. "I stayed," I said, barely able to speak, "when I should have left. I begged you to talk to me. I begged for scraps of affection. And you gave them to him instead." "I didn't mean for it to happen," she finally whispered. "It wasn't planned." "It never is," I replied. "You think that makes it hurt less?" She looked down, but I didn't. Not anymore. I looked her in the eye and said what I should have said months ago. "You don't get to cry anymore." I grabbed my bag, turned around, and walked toward the door. But then, I heard her sob. Not a performance. Not the crocodile kind. The real kind. That raw, choking sound you make when your insides give out. And a part of me, the same pathetic part that stayed up late hoping for a text, paused. What if she meant it now? What if she regretted it? What if the person crying behind me was the real Maren, and I just never got to meet her until it was too late? I turned my head. She was on the floor again, hugging that letter to her chest like it was the last piece of me she had left. And I had no idea whether to walk out or kneel down beside her. My hand was on the doorknob. That cold metal felt like the only solid thing in my life. One twist, one step, and I'd be gone. I could find some motel, eat fast food for a week, Maybe even sleep through the night without hearing the ghost of her voice in every creak of the apartment. But I didn't move. She was still on the floor behind me, shaking, clutching the letter like it was a lifeline. And that image, her looking small, helpless, it clashed violently with the version of her from just days ago. The one who rolled her eyes when I asked if we could talk. The one who brushed past me like I was a chair in the hallway. The one who kissed someone else while I was cooking her dinner. I should have walked. But instead, I turned around and said the stupidest thing a man could say. Was he better than me? I hate that I asked. I hate that I even wanted the answer. She looked up slowly, eyes swollen, cheeks red. No, she said instantly. It wasn't about that. Then what the hell was it about? She paused for what felt like hours. Then she said, he listened. That's all. He listened when I didn't know how to speak anymore. I wanted to scream, to tear something off the wall. Because I had listened. I had begged her to talk. She was the one who shut down, who waved me off, who acted like every attempt I made to connect was some kind of burden. Do you know how many nights I stayed awake beside you just praying you'd touch me? I said, not even sexually, just touch me. A hand, a shoulder, anything. I know, she whispered. I felt you waiting. And I hated myself for not being able to give it. That was the moment I realized something. She wasn't just sorry. She was ashamed. And not in a performative, oh no I got caught way, but in the kind that sinks deep, grows roots. The kind that follows you even when you're alone. Did he love you? I asked, not sure I could handle the answer. She didn't blink. I don't know. Maybe. But it didn't feel real like this does. This? I echoed, my voice rising. Marin, this is a pile of letters in a locked room and you begging me not to leave because now it's convenient. This isn't love. This is cleanup. She flinched. I know I ruined it. I didn't need perfect, I said. I just needed you to try. She stood slowly, stepping closer, her arms shaking like she wanted to touch me but didn't know if she had the right anymore. Then let me try now, she whispered. Please. I looked at her, really looked at her. The face I memorized. The woman I proposed to with a crumpled receipt ring at a gas station because we couldn't afford real things back then. The person I thought would never lie to me, never lock me out, never let me fall asleep wondering if I even mattered anymore. And then I said the second most pathetic thing I've ever said. Would you still have chosen me if I hadn't found that letter? She didn't answer. Not with words. Just silence. And in that silence, I heard everything. Everything I didn't want to know. That no, she wouldn't have stopped. Not then. Maybe not ever. And yet, my legs wouldn't move. Not forward, not back. I was stuck in this impossible place between dignity and disaster. She stepped forward again, close now. Eldon, she said softly, you have every right to leave. But if there's even one part of you that still believes in what we had, just one part, I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll write you letters every day. I'll give you every password, every answer, every ugly truth. Just don't let this end with that door. And God help me. I wanted to believe her. But what scared me wasn't her lies anymore. What scared me was how much of myself I'd already lost trying to love her. We stood in the living room like strangers. My bag still slumped by the door, the zipper half open, like it couldn't decide whether to finish the job or give me an excuse to stay. She kept her hands folded in front of her, like she was waiting for a verdict. I hated the way that flipped our story. I was the one who'd been pushed away for months, and now I was the judge, jury, and executioner. But I didn't want to be any of those things. I wanted to be the guy she missed when she couldn't sleep. The guy she texted dumb memes to in the middle of the day. The guy who made her laugh so hard she snorted. I wanted before, not this shattered glass version of us. I don't know who I am anymore, she said finally. I don't know how I got so angry all the time. You were angry, I said, biting my tongue to keep from yelling. At me, at everything. And you never said why. You just turned cold. Because I didn't think I could be honest without breaking you, she said. And I knew if I did that, I'd lose the one thing in my life that wasn't already falling apart. I laughed bitterly, and lying kept me whole. No, she said, eyes glistening. It killed you. I know it did. There was a pause, one of those heavy, sharp silences that begs to be broken, but neither of us knew how. My stomach felt hollow. My brain was sprinting in circles. I still didn't even know the guy's name. I didn't know how many times. I didn't know when it stopped, or if it had. And still, I was standing there, considering staying. I was so tired of being the guy who didn't leave when he should. And then, as if the universe wanted to remind me of just how stupid I was being, she said the one thing that completely changed the direction of the entire conversation. It was after your birthday. I blinked. What? She looked down. That night, when you came home with the cake you bought for yourself because I forgot. You smiled anyway. You poured us both wine. You played that dumb song you liked. I told you I was tired. You kissed me goodnight, and I waited until you fell asleep to text him. My chest went numb. I remembered that night. I remembered how I stood in the bakery aisle for 15 minutes trying to pick a flavor she'd like, so she wouldn't feel guilty for forgetting. I remembered how I took a selfie of us on the couch and posted it with a caption that said, "Best night ever," because I didn't want anyone to think my marriage was as hollow as it felt. I remembered how I laid next to her after she said goodnight, staring at the ceiling, silently begging the universe for just one more year where we could fix it. And she had been texting him. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice barely audible. "That's the night I forgave you," I said, stunned at the realization. I didn't even know what I was forgiving. But I remember thinking, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. And she said nothing. Because what could she say to that? I turned around again, this time reaching for the handle, not to leave, but just to open the door. I needed air. Space. Time to feel something other than the thudding numbness in my chest. But as I touched the knob, she said it. I ended it. With him. I didn't look back. When, 3 weeks ago, my hand froze. And why didn't you tell me? Because I thought it wouldn't matter anymore. I thought you were already gone. She wasn't wrong, but she also wasn't right. Because I had been here. Fully. Stupidly. Painfully. Even when she wasn't. I didn't walk out that night, I said slowly. Even when you forgot my birthday. Even when you rolled over instead of kissing me goodnight. Even when I cried in the bathroom with the faucet on so you wouldn't hear me. I stayed. I know, she said. And that's why I hate myself. I turned around and finally looked at her. She wasn't crying anymore. She looked dead inside. And that scared me more than any letter, any silence, any confession. I don't want you to hate yourself, I said. That's not why I'm here. Then why are you here? She asked. What do you need from me, Eldon? And I didn't have an answer. Because for the first time since this whole thing started, I realized I wasn't looking for the truth. I was looking for a reason to still love her. And I didn't know if I had one left. I didn't answer her question right away. I didn't know how. What did I need from her? An apology? A confession? A time machine? Maybe just a sign that I hadn't been completely out of my mind for holding on so tightly while she had one foot out the door. She waited for me to speak, her hands nervously twisting the sleeve of that old gray sweater I once gave her for Christmas. The one she used to wear every Sunday morning while drinking tea with lemon and reading poetry she never finished. Seeing it on her now felt surreal. Like watching someone play dress up with the past. I think I just needed you to see me, I finally said. I needed to stop feeling like I was screaming into a hurricane every time I tried to tell you I was drowning. I see you now, she said, barely above a whisper. I swear I do. But it was too late. That version of me, the one who waited patiently, who took the silence as punishment, who begged without pride. He'd already died quietly in that bed the night she sent those messages. I was a different man now. Still weak, still hurt, but something in me had hardened, cracked down the middle, and filled with cold. She stepped forward again, close, like she thought being near would fix things. Her voice dropped, and what she said next. I didn't see it coming. He didn't just listen, she said. I blinked. What does that mean? I didn't want to tell you. I wasn't going to. But if this is really the end, I can't let you walk away thinking it was only emotional. My stomach dropped. She looked away, unable to meet my eyes. It happened. Once. I swear. Just once. It wasn't even planned. It was a blur. I hated myself the second it ended. I couldn't feel my legs. My throat felt tight, like something was physically lodged there. I wanted to scream, but all I could manage was a laugh. Not a happy one. The kind you make when your soul starts leaking out and you can't hold it in anymore. Once, I repeated, nodding slowly. Just once. Wow. That makes it so much better. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she said quickly. I'm just. Then why are you telling me now? I snapped, louder than I meant to. Why now? Because the tears didn't work? Because I didn't leave fast enough? Because you thought maybe you could fix this before I got all the way out the door? She didn't move. Just stood there, staring at the floor. You should have lied, I whispered. You should have stuck to the emotional affair story. I could have lived with that. I could have built a new narrative in my head, one where you were still technically mine. But this? I shook my head, eyes burning. You let someone else touch you, I said. And then you came home, kissed me on the forehead, and asked if I wanted soup. She finally looked up, crying again, but I didn't care this time. Not because it didn't hurt, but because it hurt too much. It was a mistake, she said. The worst one I've ever made. And I've paid for it every single day since. I grabbed my bag again. This time I didn't hesitate. I walked to the door and opened it. Eldon, she started, voice breaking. But I didn't stop. I stepped out into the hallway, the air colder than I expected. My heartbeat thudded in my ears like a war drum. My body moved on its own, autopilot mode, feet remembering the layout of a building I wasn't welcome in anymore. Then I stopped, one foot on the stairs. I closed my eyes, and I heard it, a sound I'd never heard from her before. Not anger, not sadness, panic, not loud, not dramatic, but real. Eldon, she sobbed from inside the apartment, please, I don't want to do life without you. And the scariest part? A small, shattered voice inside me whispered, maybe she really means it this time. I walked out, not because I was sure it was the right thing to do, not because I was finally strong enough, but because staying even one more second in that apartment felt like swallowing broken glass. Every breath hurt. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the bag. My heart was thudding loud enough that I thought the neighbors might hear it echoing down the stairwell. I didn't run. I didn't slam the door behind me. I didn't look back. That was the hardest part. The elevator felt like a coffin. Small. Airless. I watched the numbers blink. 4, 3, 2, 1. And with every floor, it felt less like escape and more like freefall. I stepped out into the lobby and suddenly realized I had nowhere to go. Not really. No plan. No apartment. No couch to crash on. Just my duffel bag full of regrets and a charger that no longer mattered. Outside, the city didn't care what had just happened. Cars honked. People argued into their phones. Somewhere nearby, a busker was singing the wrong notes of a love song that used to make Marin cry. I walked until my legs went numb, until the weight of my own body felt like too much. I ended up sitting on a bench outside a 24-hour laundromat, next to a man who smelled like whiskey and regret. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. I kept hearing her voice. That last line. Please, I don't want to do life without you. And God help me, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to go back upstairs, throw the bag across the room, and collapse into her arms like some twisted ending to a bad romance film. I wanted her to mean it. I wanted this all to somehow be a terrible mistake that we could undo if we just tried hard enough. But love doesn't work like that. Trust doesn't grow back just because someone cries hard enough. A shattered mirror doesn't unbreak because you bleed trying to put it back together. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I already knew who it was. Marin, 6:44 p.m., please tell me where you are. Marin, 6:45 p.m., I don't know what to do. Marin, 6:46 p.m., I still love you. That never stopped. I stared at the screen until it went dark. And then I turned the phone off. I couldn't do it. Not yet. Instead, I opened my wallet. I don't even know why. Maybe just to make sure I still existed in the world. Inside was the movie ticket stub from our first anniversary. A receipt from the diner where she told me she might want kids one day. A tiny folded note, one she wrote a year ago, that said, "Thanks for always showing up, even when I'm impossible." It made me sick. Not because it was fake, but because it used to be true. I was the guy who showed up. I was the guy who stood in the fire while she lit matches. And now I was sitting on a dirty bench, wondering if maybe being the one who left made me the villain in her story. Maybe that's why she cried like that. Maybe, in her head, I was betraying her now. The irony almost made me laugh. Almost. I spent the next 3 hours in limbo. Walking, thinking, rewriting the last 5 years in my head. Wondering which moments were real and which were just good acting. And somewhere along the way, a new question started forming. One that I hadn't let myself ask until now. Did I even love her anymore? Or did I just love who I used to be when I was with her? Because back then, in the early years, I was lighter, funnier. I liked myself. I believed I was lovable. And somewhere, through all the silence and suspicion and sleeping on the edge of the bed, that version of me got strangled to death by hope. Now all that remained was this thing. This man who flinched every time his phone buzzed. Who questioned every smile. who saw apologies as weapons and affection as traps. Marin didn't just cheat on me with another man. She cheated me out of myself. And I had no idea how to get that person back. I don't know what I expected to feel after all that walking. Relief? Clarity? Maybe the kind of peaceful numbness you see in movies where the protagonist finally breaks free from the person who was dragging them down. But the truth is messy. Real life doesn't wrap things up in a clean, sweeping musical montage. I sat in a diner just past midnight, sipping the worst cup of coffee I'd ever had, watching as the waitress wiped the same spot on the counter for 20 minutes straight. I wanted to ask her how she kept showing up every day, doing the same thing, watching people come and go like ghosts. I wanted to ask her if pain eventually stops mattering, but I didn't. Instead, I asked myself a question that hit me harder than anything Marin ever said. What do I want my life to look like a year from now, with or without her? Not what do I want from her, or how do I fix this? Just me, on my own terms. No scripts, no damage control. And surprisingly, the answer didn't scare me. I wanted peace, quiet mornings, a full night of sleep without walking on emotional eggshells. I wanted to laugh again without second-guessing the sound of it. I wanted to forgive her, not to let her off the hook, but so I could finally cut the rope tied to a ship that wasn't sailing anymore. And yet, a part of me still loved her. But I'd finally accepted that love alone isn't enough. Still, I went back. Not because I changed my mind, but because closure isn't something you find sitting alone on a bench outside a laundromat. I didn't knock. I still had a key. The old one, before she changed the locks. She must have swapped them back after I left. Maybe that was her way of saying if you ever want to come home, you can. The apartment was quiet, dark, but warm. I stepped inside slowly. Every step was deliberate. I wasn't running back. I was walking into the wreckage to gather the pieces of myself she'd left behind. She was asleep on the couch, wrapped in that same old sweater, face blotchy and tired. A half-written letter sat on the coffee table, next to a photo of us from years ago. She'd written my name at the top, just Eldon. Nothing else. I didn't wake her. I sat in the chair across from her and watched her sleep for a moment, not out of longing, but to say goodbye to the version of her I'd been fighting for. The woman in my head who never lied, who never flinched, who never chose someone else. That woman was gone. But this one, this flawed, human, broken woman, was still here. And maybe, just maybe, she was still capable of being someone better. When she opened her eyes, startled, she looked at me like she was dreaming. "You came back," she whispered. I nodded. "Not for what you think." She sat up slowly, cautious, like I might vanish. "Then why?" "I needed to let you know that I'm going to be okay," I said. "And that you can be too. Just not together. Not now. Maybe not ever. But I don't hate you." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't speak. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked to the door. Right before I stepped out, she called after me. "Eldon, thank you." I looked back one last time, and I smiled. A real one. Then I left. Not broken. Not angry. Just free.